Thanks for clicking on this video. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell icon and turn on all notifications to keep up to date with the latest information and discussions.
And spoiler warning, it's not about to get old anytime soon.
Hey guys, MasakoX here. We, as people, transform over the course of our lifetime. It's a pretty standard affair. However, there are some fictional characters who can do this at, well, any time. Mostly to look cool and not necessarily out of character development. Both are indeed good though. You see, our favourite series has done its own fair share of transforming over the years. Sometimes for good, sometimes for not so good. Dragonball is many things. Adventure, people screaming loud for a seemingly interminable amount of time, and fighting sequences that tend to last equally as long, if not more so. In many aspects, transformation has kept on transforming even to the modern day and the latest series of the franchise. As a result, it has become sort of a big problem. Gone are the days when it was just used sparingly to make it look more effective. In Dragon Ball Super, and especially in Dragon Ball Heroes, it's par for the course for the most part. Heroes especially likes to revel in the art of transformation to artificially raise the stakes. That was pretty much sewn up for me in the 10th episode of the promo anime, with that being that looks like just a walking tube of toothpaste. I mean, I can't really remember the name. But if we're going to really talk about transformation in Dragon Ball, first we need to attempt and understand the role of transformation in Japanese culture. Dragon Ball in no means invented the concept or is the only anime that does it. I mean, come on, let's be real. Pretty much nearly all the anime has some kind of transformation sequence. All that Dragon Ball did was just add its own spin to the medium. And during our research, Haverock and I found a very interesting essay written by Yael Ben-Nun entitled "The Figure of Metamorphosis in Japanese Animation, When Aesthetics, Technique, and Culture Meet." Metamorphosis is present in animation both conceptually, within the process of creation of an animated feature, and visually, as a dominant figure and subject of animated films. While its conceptual presence can be found in any animated film through the transformation of the lines from one image to the other, its presence as a subject is relatively punctual within the major animated features by the main American and European studios. In Japan, this figure plays a particularly important role in animation within all genre and graphic styles. And yes, this seems pretty obvious to anyone who has ever seen anime in pretty much any capacity, even in passing. Pretty often, characters seem to be more dynamic and less solid. That's why I think things like the overly static shots in Super feel so off for the average viewer. We are used to these characters who are very lively. And really, it just brought home to the fact that a lot of times transformations require the character to just stand still, and it's never been more present than in Super. They're just standing there and waiting for a certain amount of time. It just feels pretty jarring now that I think about it. Which is why when Android 17 did his thing in the Tournament of Power, you know, that really made me laugh. 17, please never change. Yael Ben then goes on to further elaborate on the term henshin, which in their opinion is the best term to express the importance of transformation in Japanese culture. Now some of you may perhaps know this term directly in relation to Kamen Rider and his characteristic poses. That and he yells the word. And of course, there's a subversive video game, Beautiful Joe, which took the term and space dandied it before space dandy was even a thing. When Japanese superheroes transform, they do not hide their true identity. They have a human identity, but is often no secret. If there is a secret, then their transformation serves to dispel secrecy, demonstrate a continuity, and reveal their true identity. In that sense, the superhero persona is something more meaningful than simply a disguise that a person wears. It is a fully realized version of the character, now with cool armor too. And it would be unfair to say that Western heroes don't do this. Then again, more modern interpretations of Superman love to flirt with the idea of Clark Kent being simply a disguise, and nothing more. Then you go the other way around with Daredevil trying to bury Matt Murdock many times in order to focus solely on the vigilante part of his career. And of course in the first ever MCU movie, Tony Stark states that he is Iron Man. So the hero is no longer merely a straightforward overlay for the characters in most Western mediums. Something that Japan has known about for a while, but let's go back to our essay. Among some other works of Japanese animation, Yael Ben-Nun mentions Ghost in the Shell as a metaphor of a very important role of metamorphosis and fusion in Japanese identity. We are of course going to admit the scene that they are referring to because, you know, spoilers. for a 30-year-old manga and a 24-year-old anime? Because we care. This could be seen as a reassuring message. Japan could worry of losing its identity due to foreign influences. Yet the film points out that not only the identity could be preserved, but also something could be gained and new possibilities could appear. Okay, Masako, you are mentioning all that stuff, but why? What's the point of this video? Well, let's now bring this all around back to Dragon Ball. One of the first, if not the first, transformations that we ever see is not that long into Dragon Ball's conception, and that's the Great Ape, of course, just a dozen or so episodes into the series. A transformation which, in the grander scheme of things, becomes one of the biggest foreshadowings in the entire series. It shows us that Goku is more than meets the eye, and that he hides a darker secret and a darker nature inside. Much later on, of course, we learn that this is just simply part of his Saiyan nature. He's nothing special in the grander scheme of things. Something that will one day redefine how we look at him and change pop culture forever, for good and for ill. Now, before we get to Super Saiyan specifically, I'd like to show you the whole thing with transformations being the true form of a character and how it works in context with a lot of big bads in the series, so that we may bring Yael Ben's essay into sharp relief and into relevance with Dragon Ball in of itself. We start with, naturally, King Piccolo, who is wishing to return to the form of his prime and revert back into his most threatening version. Then we have Frieza, whose transformations are not simply necessary upgrades, but merely ways to suppress his power and hiding his final form and persona. They're like restraints of some kind, like Alucard, filtering something so that Frieza doesn't tucker himself out or show his hand too soon. The final form is the true Frieza. He doesn't need to aspire towards it, he already has it. He's just hiding it. That's why I thought True Golden Frieza, despite it looking really cool, was such a weird thing. And why I think this is because the original Golden Frieza was meant to be the divine realization of the character. Gold colouring and such. And also, probably taking the mickey out of Super Saiyans in a way. Oh, look at me! I can go gold too! Does that make me a Super Saiyan monkey? Tee-hee-hee! But then again, Dragon Ball characters do like talking about showing their true power, don't they? It got really bad with Jiren, right? Resurrection F truly dropped the ball on this point, as this film should represent Frieza surpassing his regular ego and his regular self, and yet all it turned out to be was just a very long battle sequence with very little depth. Sure, it was a good time for anyone going to see it, I had a good time, but you wouldn't really want to go back to it all that often and try to parse new information out of it with each viewing. You can tell though, by achieving this form, Golden Frieza, it was the start of a change in Frieza's outlook, making him more mature, that we now are beginning to witness in the Broly movie, and probably in the main series proper, should it ever come back. Now when it comes to Cell, who started with an almost animalistic need to feed on people in order to achieve his perfect form, his full self, the whole perfect to Cell kinda weakened the blow, but still, watching this character made us realize that this is the person that he was meant to be all along. All those previous forms, he was genuinely incomplete. That, and we finally got to see that majestic jawline. Then we have Majin Buu, which is a slightly bigger problem, because as we mentioned in a previous video, Toriyama kinda overdid it and Buu outstayed his original welcome. We have mentioned that at this point in the manga's development, Toriyama could do whatever he wanted basically, and he went to town with this newfound freedom after decades of oversight. Thusly, we got the Buu saga, and whilst it had some very high points, of course, it certainly had some, well, not low points, but weird points, as I described in this video. However, it should be noted that the final fight that Goku had against the pink blob monster was in his true form. Not necessarily the strongest form, but the most pure and true to his original purpose. What they would have fought millions of years ago. Now the really interesting realization of this idea of henshin and transformation is regarding Zamasu. He reaches a divine form that at first feels really dignified and majestic, but quickly reveals its true colors. What we are presented with ultimately is this corruption, which has been bubbling under the surface and literally bubbles up after the fusion begins to corrupt itself. What Zamasu's true self is a two-faced, malicious being who doesn't know what to be and cares not for poetic justice. As we have just conveyed, the most interesting antagonists and villains in the Dragon Ball universe change. The physical change definitely became a staple of the series, whereas the personality change has sort of waned. And that's why I think Jiren disappointed a lot of people. And okay, I know he wasn't meant to be a villain, but he was a major antagonist in comparison to Goku, and he didn't change. Well, not really change. We didn't see his true form. We just saw him go all out. That's pretty much it. But nonetheless, we still got a personality change and transformation with Toppo. We need transforming opponents in Dragon Ball. It's become part of the show's DNA. Toppo provided us that, and oh my god. Yeah, okay, I said we need transformations, but we don't need 8 transformations like we got with Majin Buu. But still, the prospect of the enemy hiding their true face until the heroes are deemed worthy, that crumb is something that gives the series a lot of hype. And speaking of hype, let's return to Goku for a moment. Now, we don't have to tell you how much this first original Super Saiyan transformation meant for the character, and for the fandom in general. This was his first step in accepting his Saiyan ancestry, as well as the revelation of a form that in time would become more iconic and recognizable than his base form, or even the original show. Even though more characters have got it at this point than one can count, we still think Goku when we think of the Super Saiyan. Super Saiyan wasn't just a turning point for Goku. Super Saiyan 2 was a redefining moment for Gohan, who was finally able to accept his true duty as the protector of Earth. At least at the time when Toriyama knew what he was doing with the character. Things get a little bit muddy with Super Saiyan 3 though, and that's why I think that form's so much more divisive than the other two. And while the scene that it debuts in has a cult following, it's kinda shallow. Like it just happens. True, it has a very distinct look and the visuals are masterful. It doesn't really up the stakes that much and it's totally unnecessary in the end. It just has too many weaknesses. And okay, as much as we like to bash on GT nearly all the time in the fandom, Super Saiyan 4 makes a better use of the whole true self thing, with Goku having to go through Golden Great Ape, and once again embraces Saiyan nature in order to beat Baby and all the other bad guys. And Battle of Gods plays it pretty well too with Super Saiyan God, largely due to the fact that Goku doesn't feel that this form is earned, and that's really different. It's pretty mysterious even to him, and it feels alien. It explores some parts of him that he didn't even know existed, his higher self. It's pretty different, and that's why that form gets so much love, and why the reaction to Vegeta getting it was so epic. Hands up anyone who heard any whoops in the cinema when they first saw the movie. And that whole thing is why Super Saiyan Blue feels so lackluster. Fortunately, the Broly movie managed to inject some spice into it. That transformation that Goku did, that was way better. The only thing that has any impact with that form, really, is Vegeta having it as well, giving both characters an even footing for the first time in years. Still, it doesn't change or reveal anything about them. It's just a palette swap when you break it down. Ultra Instinct and Super Vegeta Blue are a little better in that regard, since they have become a divergent path for our two heroes, while still focusing on their individual strengths and weaknesses, really giving an opening of their minds and making them unique and stand out. Super Saiyan Blue is just like a catalyst, and there they could just go in different directions. But all in all, transformation needs to have a purpose. It needs to provide real change, not only changing the color of a character's hair, but also the way we perceive them. It was nailed with Cell and done pretty well with Frieza. We're also willing to admit that Zamasu's final form was also interesting. These examples worked because those changes felt earned or were close to the character's core. We got to see their true self. And we need villains like that, just as we need Super Saiyan forms to be more meaningful. Hopefully with this new series, they will slow down the amount of new forms. However, we certainly have no doubts that there will indeed be new Saiyan forms, but our wish is for them to not simply be another power boost that stops being important a few months later. Maybe, just maybe, we get more specialized side grades that causes changes in the way we look at the characters, something that Super Saiyan Blue just really isn't. So what do you guys think? Do you like the transformations that we've got? What sort of changes would you wish to see in a new series of Super? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!